Let's do this. My voice is still a little bit lost. Let's pray for my vocal cords that they are good. Let's jump right in. Let's not waste any time. I have to clear my throat a little bit. All right, let's see the magic, cosmic magic. So, right off the bat, I see Gemini rising and Venus rising. So that's really interesting. I can't think of a time I've seen that, to be honest. Um, you have, Gemini rising. It makes people stay looking young for a long time. They have a very youthful external energy. Um, they're very, very curious people, very social, um, versatile. It's an interesting placement. So when you combine that with Aries sun and Pisces moon, oof, interesting trio. And then the North Node is in Pisces with the moon. Even more interesting. So what I'll start by saying is that let me get my tea ready for that. But basically, as a karmic astrologer, I'm very interested in where the soul is going, what the ambitions are for the soul in this lifetime. And when I see South Node in Virgo in the 4th, North Node in Pisces in the 10th, I instantly think that this is someone, and we see squares, Chiron. So I instantly think this is someone who, on some level, was, has some level of past life trauma. And also, when I talk about, past life conditioning, the movement from Virgo, right? So South Node is your been there, done that, right? So the North Node is the mountain never climbed in past lives. It's where you're trying to get to, but it feels like a mountain, it feels difficult to climb. So Pisces, Virgo is very much about it's a lot more in the material world. And a lot of people with South Node Virgo, especially in the 4th house, it makes me think of a past life tendency to stay kind of close to home, not really take, like being very much in the kind of for whatever reason, it would appear to be someone who had some type of conditioning that kept them away from the magical. And it's like if you look at today's world, right? You look at people who, just live completely by the rules. They believe everything they're told. I'm not saying that's you. I'm saying that it could have very well been some outside factor, right? The society you were in that lifetime or those lifetimes. But basically, the whole point is that you're here to really feel like to give back to the world in like a very compassionate way. And you're a healer, but you're someone who's healing and ability to really fully manifest as a healer was held back in karmically, right? So when I see this, I think of, okay, so like Virgo is, very domestic. It's quite domestic, goes by the rules. Um, Cancer, fourth house, it's literally the home. So when I see a South Node in the fourth, North Node in the 10th, I always think that this person played things too safe. And that there's an imbalance between the feminine and masculine. And that on one level, like when I talk about a South Node Virgo, um, I always bring up the idea that, like for like low vibe Virgo, right? There's a million things every day that could make you worry, right? Like there's always something that can make someone worry. And then that worrying, and then also there's that potential to like build very robust and kind of robust structures that can keep one, away from what Pisces is, which is like really that experience with oneness, that experience with all that is, right? So the movement towards Pisces is also aided by the fact that you have a Pisces moon. Um, so really by following, your Pisces moon, it's your emotions, right? It's how you live within yourself. And Pisces moons are very, very empathetic people. They're people who, you know, are sponges for energy. So it's really, really important for them to choose the right environments, the right people. And when I see in the 10th house, I see someone who has or who's aiming to have or has a very almost spiritual, emotional connection to their dharma. I don't like to call it career, I like to call it dharma because it's not just this 9 to 5 shit, right? Many different things. Kind of what your real life purpose is on like an external level. So with the fourth house south node, sometimes there can be, I guess you could say like fears or just like there can be things that hold them back from taking risks and from putting themselves out there, right? So I just like to sometimes picture or give like a picture of like a past life that would fit what I'm seeing. Obviously, it's not the past life, but it could be someone who was very much involved in their family life, which is obviously nothing wrong with that, obviously. But um, in astrology and just energy in general, we're meant to incarnate and we're meant to experience everything, right? In different incarnations. So when we kind of pass the test of one, so the test of Virgo, it's very much about being able to exist in this in the material world. And you know when it goes overboard, it could be that what I was just talking about, right? Like, oh, today it's this, tomorrow it's that, and then when there's all these things that can become worries, right? And then also it's ruled by Mercury, so it could be linked to overthinking. And when one tries to intellectualize spirituality, what happens, right? So, a lot of the quest is about moving from a tendency to exist in the kind of consensus reality towards something that logically might not make any sense, right? But it's really the journey of following the intuition in the heart. So, you know, 10th house Capricorn, it's linked to Capricorn. So 10th house North Node, it's someone who in this life, they are here to learn responsibility. They're here to learn about almost being their own, I like to say, metaphoric father, like to really kind of own up for what they do, to really really move forward. And it is masculine in the sense that like it's not someone who's meant to just sit around and um, kind of think of different ideas, because sometimes the South Node of Virgo energy can, it can be, it can make one like an amazing planner and stuff like that. But when it's taken too far, it can also give someone a million cognitive, logical reasons of why they shouldn't do something, right? Why they shouldn't take a spiritual risk, why they should follow their ego and the desires of the ego over the yearnings of the soul. And that's what Pisces is about. Pisces is about the soul and spirit. So right off the bat, North Node Pisces people, I always know that they're here, and a big part of their life purpose is spirituality. And in your case, being that's in the 10th house, and I think it would be 11th house in, well, let's see, 10th house. Well, actually, yeah. So yeah, they're really here to, through what they do for the world. Um, they're really here to give back, and through whether it's their profession or just kind of their role in society, they're meant to feel love, feel that high divine energy of love. And so that's kind of what's tricky with a Virgo Pisces axis, right? Is that it's really mind versus spirit. And in this world, it can be difficult to follow spirit because it doesn't, you know, it's not proven by science, it doesn't have that logical basis. So that, going back to what I was saying about like how important your environment is, the people you surround yourself, where you live, all that. Pisces moon are like chameleons. So sometimes they can lack energetic boundaries, in the sense that they can, take on stuff that's not theirs, emotions, feelings, and they're not always the best ones. So I think, like, yeah, right off the bat, it is this mix of Capricorn and Pisces, which to me is, Capricorn is boundaries, right? It's foundations. And it's like, how can this person build, take their past life gifts of being able to organize and being able to craft and to really get things done, but do it on a public level, right? And really contribute to society in a way that um, their spirit really gets, really wakes up, really lightens up their spirit, lights up their spirit. So, I mean, you can just think of Cancer, Virgo to Capricorn, Pisces shift. But one of the big aspects of it too is that Pisces is very much about um, it's about the metaphysical, it's about the esoteric, the occult, the magic, the imagination, the dream world, all that stuff. And it can be hard for Pisces moon in this world, as I made reference to, right? So we look at, okay, you're an Aries sun and Gemini Venus rising. Well, Aries Pisces is a super interesting combination because in order for you to, I guess, achieve whatever goals there are around, and then you have your midheaven in Aquarius with Mars and Aquarius on it. So I could just imagine you being very, very humanitarian and also someone who's really seeking truth and expansion of their individual truth through what they do. So when that's the case, Aries is almost like this, so Aries is your sun, it's your identity. It's almost like, it's the first sign, it's very fiery. And it's almost like this protective, right? It's super assertive. It doesn't put up with people's shit. So, yeah, check something. Oh shit, you see? Hello. Okay. Check, 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 check. Thank God I caught that. Somehow my microphone switched to like the computer one. It's not good. Anyways, so as an Aries, right? As an Aries Sun Pisces Moon is like this amazing mix of warrior independent energy. And it's that very energy, right? It's that very warrior energy that is going to be the biggest aid in overcoming some of the issues with being a Pisces moon, which is, like I said, boundaries can be tough to enforce. Um, some people can view people with Pisces as pushovers, but when you have Aries, but the moon is what's hidden, right? The moon is hidden. So in that case, people don't necessarily see this very like soft, sensitive side, right? Um, I always give the metaphor of the egg, where the shell is the ascendant, what people see, your personality. The white is the sun, your identity, the core essence of who you are. And the moon, the yolk is the moon, right? So having this extremely sensitive moon, and then an external, it's Gemini, which is not known for its sensitivity, right? Very, very social, as I said. People might be very surprised when they get to know you of how deep you are, right? Of the depth and the spirit. So I think, you know, the Pisces, like I said, um, mixed with Aries, I think is like one of the most unbeatable. Also, like one of my cat Whitey from America, that's his sun and moon. Um, but basically, like, people aren't gonna mess with an Aries, right? Aries can be intimidating, and Gemini is very versatile, very curious. So there, the top two shells are masculine, more active, which is good because your goals are very much linked to humanity, right? Even your sun is in the 11th house, the house of Aquarius. So groups of people, causes you really care about,
these major life goals. Like you're definitely someone who is here to accomplish something massive. And even having Pluto in the sixth house is very much related to service too. So yeah, all the markers of someone who really, really wants to make a difference in the world. And then, with the sun in Aries trine Uranus, it creates someone who isn't afraid to stand out. And the way they stand out isn't in a way that's, I guess you could say, offensive to others or like off-putting to others. Um, it can sometimes make people look at that person and think they're like, wow, they're so unique, they're so original. Um, they do think that, they really do things their own way. Very nonconformist, but like, unlike a square in opposition, which might like, have like some inner tension or piss off some more traditional types of people, it doesn't do that. So you're really able to express this uniqueness, this core individuality, in a pretty harmonious way. And a lot of people with that, they're very comfortable and cool with being, taking the road less traveled and seen as being different. Like they appreciate that. And your Mars and Aquarius definitely does too. Also, it makes one very intuitive, um, very inventive, very kind of ahead of their time, and yeah, yeah, and there's that whole very humanistic kind of side to it too. Very, yeah, very open-minded and just like it's beautiful because it's someone who thinks to themselves in this world where such few people do. Um, so a Gemini rising, as I said, with Venus rising, right? Well, actually, let's keep talking about this for a bit. So, having a fire sun and a water moon, you have the sensitivity, the intuition, the compassion of Pisces. But then you have the warrior. Aries is the warrior. It's the pioneer. It can be impulsive. It can sometimes be a little bit childish. Um, so it's like having the first and the last signs, your sun, your moon, is very interesting because people might not, when they see you, they might not understand, like I already said, like your depth, but like they might, like when you see Gemini rising and Sun in Aries, like you might, you'd be surprised, like in like of the Pisces moon, the sensitivity. You wouldn't necessarily expect that person to be so sensitive. Now, you do have Venus rising. Venus rising gives beauty, right? Um, it gives like a beautiful body, beautiful soul, beautiful energy, beautiful aura, very like warm to people, right? So while some Gemini risings can be a little bit like, all over the place, the Venus will really soothe that. And it makes one very good at socializing. But this is the thing that's really important, is that Aries, social sign, extrovert sign, Gemini, very extroverted sign, Pisces, a very introverted sign. So the question becomes how, and me and you kind of have this in common, because Pisces is like the one sign that we have that's, I guess, more introverted, right? Um, how does that Pisces side get light? how do you feed the mouth of the Pisces while also, feeding the Aquarius, Aries, Gemini? And I think like the fact that it's in the 10th house with the North Node, it's through this need for this spiritual journey. Because really what's nourishing your soul is the deeper you get into spirituality. The deeper you get away from this reality that they are have us like believe, and the closer you get to really in your own intuition, your own heart, understanding or feeling the presence of God, the presence of you know of something more. But what can happen is that all this stuff like Venus rising makes someone very popular usually. And good people skills. Definitely a lover, not a fighter, even though Aries sometimes can be a little bit combative. And that brings up what I was saying earlier, because let's say you meet certain people, you're in a certain environment, the the curiosity and the need to just like do of the Gemini and also the Aries, well, that's going to make you run into like lots of different people and lots of different environments. And because there's this osmosis that happens with the Pisces moon, it's really important to, spend time alone. Not all the time, but I think that's one way to really give back. Like this, like it's very contemplative Pisces moons, right? Very contemplative, and when they don't get that alone time, that space to think, to feel, to just be, and they're always doing, they can, become quite stressed, and energetically it can be too much for them. But then on the external, people won't see that. They see the Gemini, they see the Aries. So with Venus rising also, it just makes love like a very important part of life, right? Just love in general. It's usually like Venus rising people usually don't have trouble with relationships unless there's like something else in the chart I see, which I don't really see so far many hard aspects. A lot of times like partnership like brings out the best in them. And it kind of gives like a Libra vibe. So it's like a more fun kind of Libra, a more like lots of movement, but then more relaxed, comfortable. It's very good for money too, and for things like fashion, just anything that makes the self beautiful, and that um like anything that like designing or art, anything that creates beauty, right? Venus on an angle makes the Venus very strong. Be like a very good home decorator, so it makes jewelry or any kind of art. So one thing about Pisces moon is that Pisces moon people on a soul level, they are used to the ethereal heaven realms, and they come down to earth, and it's like, what the fuck is all this stuff? What's wrong with these people? What's wrong with this place? So, Pisces can go different direction, right? It's a mix of all of the 11 signs. It's the last sign. So I think that like because it is so impressionable, and so it can be so influenced by surroundings. I think the Aries sun, the goal, if you're a ship, is to really navigate yourself in directions through this very assertive Aries energy, right? That has this feeling of safety and this feeling of this feeling of like, okay, I like if it's like a group of people, right? Because like 11th house suns, it's like a lot of the life purpose is meant to be in groups and with friends and stuff like that. It's really important for someone with a chart like yours to understand the difference between intuition and imagination, because sometimes Pisces moons, when the world is so terrible, as I was saying before, they can go towards escapism. And that could be something like art, something beautiful like art, or it can be something like alcohol, drugs. There's such a deep sensitivity to a Pisces moon. But also like very mysterious, Mega creative also, I forgot to say, and super idealistic too. That's another thing about Pisces moon people is like in love, they really have to like they can really use that kind of dose of realism because they can have like the rose colored glasses. What's interesting is that Venus in Gemini is known for like in love, it can get, well, just in general, but it always needs something new, right? And it can get bored quite easily. But then, so that's like the square with the moon in Venus, where there's that struggle between your own needs, your own emotional needs, and the needs of others, right? Partners and stuff. So a lot of times, like, the Pisces want to retreat, like the idea of like having like a very safe and cozy home, even though that's kind of Cancer. Still, with Pisces, like they love to feel that sense of belonging energetically, right? And I would imagine your life that there's maybe been times where you've been hurt, where people were very surprised by that. Um, and where people were very surprised by, this really soft interior, even though, like I said, like the Venus rising does kind of align with the Pisces moon. But yeah, so there's just like the imagination of the Pisces is just like something special, right? And the ability to like turn that into like a creative outlet is wonderful. I mean, it's Pisces can imagine worlds, they can imagine so much and be so creative, right? But yeah, it just always goes back to that sensitivity. But also Pisces moons can be psychic, but sometimes it's difficult because they can it's like I always think of it as like a muscle. I mean, some people just have it, but I think of it as like a muscle. But like sometimes they can like have all these like amazing intuitions, but like they might think like, oh, other people are like this too. Like I'm not the only one. Or like, this isn't unique to me. But then like other people aren't like that. So this ability to really think outside the box mixed with this deep creativity, I mean, like I can imagine. And also, there's like you know, the whole metaphysical esoteric part too, Jupiter in the 12th house, that's opening up everything in kind of the collective unconscious for you to see, for you to understand. Um I always think of Jupiter in the 12th as like having a flashlight or a lantern in the areas of life that most people are afraid to even look at. And also because like the Aries Gemini is not known as like being super metaphysical, like um there could be like this emotional need to really, find people who can connect on that level, right? And there can be like a real like curiosity about the subtle forces that shape our lives, right? So yeah, it's really like Pisces moons, they have like this real connection with the divine. But a lot of times they're not religious, a lot of times they're more spiritual, right? And they kind of like have this because it's mutable water, right? So it's like they kind of have this like more personal spirituality, personal to them. They're so creative, they can, they create their own. Um, Psychologically, Pisces moons definitely are, one of the most sensitive moon signs. Um, they're not the types typically, although some men with Pisces moons will hide it, but you know, not typically the types to, hide their emotions and stuff. Um, so yeah, it's a lot easier for women, right? Because they're, in society able to like explore like their sensitive side. Um, while men, they're taught to kind of repress all that and whatnot. And there can be like lots of issues that come down from shutting down that intuitive side and that sensitive side. So usually it's with men, but sometimes moon and Pisces people like fear their natural sensitivities, right? And they can like it's usually just with men. Like, I mean, I've seen women like this, but like they can like react badly to the idea of anything that's like otherworldly, right? Um, but like within themselves, Pisces moon, they know that they have this magic. It's just about opening up. And I don't know. I would not be surprised if you're an artist, because just like that Pisces moon, like it just wants that perfection. It wants that beauty. It wants that peace. So it can be difficult for Pisces if they don't take a spiritual route to cope with kind of the demands of life, right? And that's where that escapism can come from, right? So, by following the road of compassion, wherever it takes them, and in your case, it's your 10th house, so it is, likely going to be linked to what you're doing, big picture for your life. By following that, there's that feeling of wholeness. A Pisces moon who goes down like a completely materialistic road would probably struggle. Of course, you can have both, right? Because Aries and Gemini are, signs that, Gemini, like I said, very, very social, very curious, and Aries is the go-getter, right? Um, It's really important though. So what's interesting is like Pisces, sometimes they give a lot more than they take. But then Aries is kind of an equalizer there, right? So I don't see you being this kind of like what we see with some Pisces can be Pisces people can have Pisces moons can be like have a lot of trouble saying no and yeah. Back to the love thing I kind of got into. Because of that real mystical like divine perfection, whatever you want to call it. When they meet someone, sometimes they try to create God. This is not just Pisces moons, but like I've seen it with Pisces moons. Sometimes they can try to create God, find God within that human being. And they can, sometimes seek like perfectionism in that. So it's one of the best, things to do there is to take things very slow in romance. But what's the funny thing is Gemini Venus are like the ones who are just like on to the next one, on to the next one, on to the next one. Like they get very like Gemini Venus gets bored very easily in love, right? And Gemini rising on its own. Oh yeah, one random thing about Gemini is that doing things like it rules the hands. So like doing things with your hands can be really good, like guitar, video games, I don't know. Whatever is moving like, your hands, especially with Venus there. But yeah, Venus and Gemini like tends to really love to read. They love information. They're always looking for new ways to learn. And in love, so they're gonna want someone who stimulates them, right? They want that stimulation. Oops. Yeah, so they want that stimulation. They want that feeling of like of new of newness, right? So they can get bored quite easily. Um, yeah, I think that like creativity and art, like I'd be very surprised if in some way, whether it's you, like your career, whatever you're doing, like being connected to that in some way, or that being something that you do as a passion, I'd be very surprised. Actually, nothing surprises me anymore. You know, um, at the very least, like really, really having like a deep connection with art, and with creativity. Um, so Mercury rules the chart. Um, so actually, well, back with Aries a little bit more, right? So Aries is the leader, right? So Aries, the sun, is like this energy where it's very masculine. It's very like, I'm here, my lead. So in 11th house, you could be like really like the leader of a group. Um, and also, I think one reason why you could be such a successful person in any realm of life is because you have that leadership and even like Pluto, Trine, Moon, right? um, but also you have that intuition. So it's like imagine there's like the business person, right? They don't have any water, no Pisces, no Cancer, no Scorpio. Like they might be blind. They might like you might like be someone who's like a leader, but who also can know who to trust and who not to trust. Um, Hold on, let me see something. Yeah, so really like the whole past life thing, it's like, moving toward, like I said, moving towards faith, compassion, seeing yourself as a part of the greater whole. Um, I just think, yeah, Virgo South Node, it's really about getting past the mind, right? So it brings that whole um, you know, ego versus soul battle up a lot. Because like if or it's not necessarily ego, like mind versus spirit. Because if one is always like thinking and logic, like it's really blocking them from their understanding with, like of the things that like maybe science hasn't like explained yet, right? But that we can feel, we can see, right? I can do this chart and tell you things about yourself without knowing you. But yeah, it's really important as a North Node in Pisces to like to really go deep into any spirit, like all like spiritual teachings, but also be careful because Pisces moon sometimes can be a little bit susceptible to frauds. And the whole thing, like if it's too good to be true, probably is. Um, so yeah, like once again, like strengthening that third eye, that intuition, you know, meditation and dreams can be like so amazing for the Pisces moon. And they can really like create from a place like like people are just like how'd you think of that? You know? I think also like one thing that can happen with Pisces though, I don't see any difficult aspects, but it can just happen, is that sometimes they feel so deeply that they can, and like I was saying before, it's more for men that they can like bury their emotions, and um they can get overwhelmed energetically really easily. So like learning spiritual protection, and you actually had Jupiter in the 12th house is spiritual protection. That's like one of the best parts of having Jupiter in the 12th house is that it protects you. It protects you from any kind of hidden enemies, any kind of hidden spirits. Like you're very, very protected. Um, but yeah, the moon Pisces, like the big lesson is about emotional boundaries, and not always saying yes. And I think being an Aries helps that. Um, so yeah, the interesting thing, right? Like that the moon is squaring the ascendant axis. Um, yeah, it really is like how do you meet the need of the Pisces moon while also like, the Gemini and Sag, just this energy and love that's very much about experience. It's very much about adventure, experience, trying this, trying that. Like sometimes like Gemini Venus people will be the kinds of people who will like date someone just because they're like curious. And like the other person like won't even know that they were like they won't even know that they were flirting and that they were like maybe leading the other person on, but they were just curious about something about them intellectually. Fascinating. I've seen them firsthand. They can be serial daters for sure. But the Pisces moon, like I said, it wants it's soulmate or nothing type love. It's like very twin flamey. Um, the allergies still looking horrible. I do this like most readings. Yeah, this one looks fine. Whatever. Whatever. Um, yeah, you have like I'm gonna look at my eyes, but like you have like very few hard aspects. The hard aspects are the ones that make things really difficult. So one thing about Moon Venus slash ascendant descendant also is like it can be difficult like expressing your feelings, your emotions in relationships, right? And it can feel difficult to like really like relax, with loved ones and whatnot. So it's like the challenge is like how can I reveal my inner emotions and be vulnerable, right? And do it in like a very loving manner, right? But because you have this beautiful Venus rising, like you're just lucky. Um, so it's some more tea. I think my throat's sounding better, isn't it? I think it's sounding better now. Yeah, so Gemini rising is just like they're go-getters, you know, like they they hear about something, they go. They love to network. They're very versatile because it's mutable, right? You have a mutable moon and a mutable ascendant, right? So like you're a very go with the flow type person. Someone who can do like multiple things at once. Sometimes it can be like restless, the Gemini rising. Like they can get bored too fast. So it's like really, really like one of the best things I can tell a Gemini rising is like when you're talking too much, like like mindfulness is like the best thing, you know? Because like they are, you know, I mean, I've yet to meet a Gemini rising that doesn't talk a lot, but I think this conjunction with Venus, um, is that anything loud noise? I think these are supposed to block it out. Understand. But yeah, like hmm, yeah, it's definitely yeah. Gemini is an interesting sign. It's rising, but I think the Venus would definitely really make one very very good socially. And it can kind of like slow down that extremely fast pace, um, and that like need for stimulation. Like Venus is about just like being happy. So also Venus on the ascendant, it is like self-love. That's like the best, right? Because the ascendant is the self, Venus is love. So it's a lot, it's quite easy to have self-love. Now, interesting part is that, you know, obviously it's opposite the seventh. So as an Aries, which is the first sign too, I just imagine that there's like this discrepancy between or some conflict between, you know, you and relationships, right? Because like the air in, you know, Mars in Aquarius, Venus in, you know, they trine each other. You have another one? No. So Venus, you know, trine Mars, right? And air communication, like it's almost like you have like communication is so important and having that intellectual connection. Um, I imagine, but also space and freedom. That's the word I was looking for. Words. And I just imagine there might be like a conflict between that closeness that a Pisces moon wants, right? The energetic and kind of emotional closeness, and the space and freedom that, you know, your Venus and your Mars want, right? Because yeah, like when they trine each other, right? And how many degrees is it? Four and a half. It's another really great one. Venus trine Mars is so good for relating to people, you know, and it makes one like, you know, actually like, so this is actually a really good placement for what I was just talking about. Because when I actually think about it, um, Venus trine Mars can make someone very good at balancing out the independence and the intimacy, right? Also, it's linked to like creativity and art, but sometimes because it is a trine, it's one of those things that like you might take for granted within yourself. And maybe Pisces tend to do that also. So maybe that is, maybe you do have this like amazing talent. um, so yeah. Um, okay, Mercury rules your chart, whereas it actually talk about Mars because we're just on that. So okay, Mars, you have the same Mars sign as me. It's on your midheaven. So that means Mars on midheaven people are go-getters. Then Pallas is there too in Aquarius. So like ninth house also. So it would definitely make someone who like Mars and Aquarius people, like they're humanitarian. They are their own people. Like they're such individuals, which is so interesting because remember the karmic stuff, South Node Virgo, right? Fourth house, someone who stays close to home, someone who doesn't really like deviate so much from the norm. And this lifetime, you see how I bring it all together. You have all these energies that are so like, the Aquarius, the Gemini, the Aries. I like it's really like this lifetime, like the big thing. If I had to sum it in one like sentence, it's like really about showing you all that's possible, and your soul is meant to experience so much in this lifetime, and a lot of fun too, a lot of new beginnings. Excuse me. Um, yeah, Mars on the midheaven is very interesting. It just makes, yeah, it's the ultimate go-getter in career. Very, very self-confident in professional life. Um, and just like lots of confidence, like able to set goals and get to them. And like Aquarius is a fixed air sign. So like, they can, like they have their ideas of like what is right and they go towards that and they don't stop, you know, like once they choose, they go. Can be pretty stubborn. But usually it's for the greater good. I love Aquarius. Also, Mars and Aquarius, I feel like that's like a very genius placement. By genius, I'm not talking about IQ genius. I'm talking about someone who's able to think critically and really like think outside the box and have ideas from nowhere, And Palace there too is really interesting. We'll talk about that a little bit. Um, let's see. Yeah, also Mars with midheaven, it's like someone who could just like ransack any obstacles in their way, to get to it, like they're in their way of wherever they want to get, any setbacks. Um, yeah. Stretch. Oh, another thing. With Mars in the midheaven and with this whole balance of Pisces, like burnout is something you have to watch out for, especially with Pluto in the sixth too. That can make someone like obsessive about their work. So being such a sensitive Pisces moon, your workplace is super important. You should have an emotional connection to it, a spiritual connection. Like if you were a therapist or an artist or something that like really inspired you, and then also midheaven in the ninth, it's like you want to really like learn more about your like add to your universal truth through your work, right? Um, but yeah, there can be like stress related illnesses that can come up. Um, so yeah, those are tense. Take a bath after this. Yeah, so Mars and Aquarius, such a interesting one, right? I'm Mars and Aquarius. I'm like, what is a Mars and Aquarius? It's like it's Mars is your actions, your assertiveness function, and Mars and Aquarius, they're just so fucking unpredictable. Like, because Aquarius is a sign of like very rebellious. They love friends. They love being parts of groups. And you know, like they just love different, like causes that they really care about, right? Hold on one second. Sorry. Okay. Wait, I need to look at something real quick. Make sure that I didn't. Okay, good thing I looked at that. Look at your email. Well, I was gonna look at it anyways. I like to look at the Squarespace thing at the end. Okay. Okay. I just want to see our chat. Everyone needs a bird on the list. Oh, that's sweet. I'm gonna message you. Intermission. Well, I message you while I'm doing your reading. You know what? I need to check something. I'm sorry. It's gonna take 2 seconds. I got really scared. It was like, what if all the readings I did, the audio is fucked for all of them. Aries, and then the moon, take when you're like, all these things make so much sense. It's a really, really tough one. Like you're good, like it's the Mars. So I don't know things, but I don't. And you're kind of weirdos. That was one that I messed up. Okay. When it really life, and it might be in this lifetime fewer. So that's like a big thing. A fear of abandonment. Like okay, the sound isn't great. I just can't tell you what that's. Find that actually fun. You know, the idea of a therapist, a physical fitness would be. But this is really my eyes. More to yourself, plays out. But basically, there can be a very big perfectionism. Okay, I think we're good. Just check one of these. Not, I mean, it's like Mercury, Aquarius, like I said. Alright, thank goodness, only one of them got kind of messed up, but we're gonna not redo it, but have a longer follow up where we go over everything. Okay, cool. So, okay, I was looking at your how many people do you get skipped? I think this wasn't really, well, you got ahead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'd be probably skipped if I was doing them in the order 9 people. Yeah, this brightness is seriously tripping out. Okay, there is. I need to turn on my f.lux. If you know, you know. Oh, it's so much better on my eyes. Fuck, why didn't it come up? Mm, there you are. Finally. Jeez, okay, let me read it. Okay, so just really quickly, I do my readings probably different. Well, actually, I think I don't know how other people do them, but so what how it usually works is people usually get the reading. I know when you got yours, you got like the special deal. They usually get the reading and follow up. So this is the reading, obviously. They watch it, then we have like a live follow up. And I would say like 90% of people add the current astrology reading to that. So it becomes like this, it's not like a long wait like this was. And if you're interested, I would do that for a big discount. You can decide whatever you want. But usually it would be like 150 plus 350, so it'd be like 500. But I would be happy to do it for so I would be happy to do it for 60 off each. So 380. I'll write that down. That I give you. It's like a very good offer. I'll give that to everyone. I'll go special. But yeah, if you want to do that, we would have a live session first hour. We compare everything that I said or that I'm gonna say, and I said in this video to your lived experience, because everything in astrology is a mix of free will and fate. You know, your chart and how you react to it. So, and just answer any questions. They go deeper on anything. That's the first hour. And then usually hour 2 and 3 usually takes that long. We go into, I do everything from, the housing risks, all the transits, the solar return chart, the progress chart. I love the progressed lunar cycle. Hey, Esme, oh my God, look who just came. Ooh, you're lucky. She's ready to work. So yeah, if you want to do that, let me know and email me, please, if you do. I just started a new email just for my astrology because like my DMs are getting too crazy, and it's Jesse Instant Astrology at oh my God, is it at gmail.com. Okay, so let's just stop. Yeah, you said area focus my 8th and 12th house plants as well as my move as well as how my move will impact me. Pluto moving out of the 6th house. That's awesome. But Pluto in the 7th, there's challenges all the time. But you never know how it's going to affect. You really have to take everything into consideration. Pluto in the 7th, it can bring a marriage or a really intense relationship, or it can, like I think with everything with Pluto, it's about control and letting go. And it adds a real intensity, but it really has to see it, you get to see how that kind of mixes everything. Yeah. So yeah, if you want to do that reading, I go over absolutely everything. I call it current astrology / spiritual alignment. It's more than just me saying this and that and this and that. Like we really connect, and it's beautiful. Very synchronistic too. If I could fucking talk. Okay. But what did you guys mistake? So yeah, you're on it with the 8th and 12th in career and relationships. Okay, cool. So let's see what Esme says. I don't know if you know, but she does this. Esme, can you please do the thing? Look at the plant. It's important for me to look at. Esme. Oh my God, why not? Esme, look. Okay, you looked at Chiron for a split second, but it wasn't that convincing. She closed her eyes and she opened with Chiron, which I haven't talked about. I always talk about Chiron. So maybe thank you, Esme, but that wasn't that convincing. Maybe just looked somewhere normal or random. So yeah, I mean, obviously, like as a whole sign astrologer, it's gonna be different. Well, actually, no, because you're 7-6. Yeah, I love Jupiter in the 12th, right? It's one of my favorite placements because I feel like Jupiter in 12th house people, they have this like deep well of optimism. Like whenever the going gets tough, they can really find that meaning from within themselves, And I think that Jupiter and Taurus, sometimes they gotta watch out for being a little bit hedonistic. But there is that real, abundance that comes from that too. Love nature and touch and all that stuff and sensations, anything. But yeah, sometimes there's like with Venus rising in Jupiter in the 12th, I would say like watching out for being like over materialistic. I don't think you are like that. It's your Pisces moon. And you're my client. But yeah, 8th house is very interesting. We'll get into that a little bit. But yeah, so like obviously like the Mars and Aquarius, it is just like so hard to pin down what Mars and Aquarius is all about, even when you have it. But I think I laid down pretty well. That you're really, really driven towards making a difference in your career. And one thing about Mars and Aquarius that's so interesting is that they're so smart that if you have like a Mars in Aries, Mars in Leo, like you know you're getting dominated by one of them. Mars and Aquarius, like you won't even know you're getting dominated by a Mars and Aquarius, and you are. Um, but yeah, like so, like with that in the Gemini, I can make one like a little bit more detached in relationships, but it's just all about that need for freedom, right? When they get that, um, but like if there's any clinging energy, oh my God, that's just like the Aquarius Mars dips out, and same with the Gemini Venus, right? Um, sometimes I think there can be like an agenda, like really like an agenda to really like push their. Sometimes people with Mars and Aquarius really push their beliefs on other people. Um, it's usually like done like in a creative way, not like an aggressive way. Yeah, I think Mars and Aquarius sometimes have superior complexes. Um, that's like the whole Aquarius God complex thing. I don't know. I think it's just a confusing sign. But like they're so good, Mars and Aquarius is so good at giving people space. And they expect in return, but like they're really, really good at like allowing people to be individuals, right? Um, and yeah, they really get off on like intellectual and mental pursuits. So yeah, and very, very independent, very sovereign, and really, really tough cookies. Like you don't push them around, especially when it's on an angle, makes it even stronger. Okay, so your ruling planet Mercury is in Aries, conjunct Eris. So interesting. So Aries, why you really can't see it all. Okay, so like Aries, Mercury obviously is just like, you know, it's very, very assertive. Um, it gets its way, and it can speak very fast and very, very independently minded, right? Um, the fact that like Eris, Mercury, Aries conjunct Eris, like what other aspects? Isn't it, unaspected. I mean, yeah, conjunct Sun, but it's combust with the Sun, barely conjunct. How close is it? 7.38. I mean, that's pretty close to an unaspected um, Mercury. An unaspected Mercury in Aries with Eris, I think, as a Gemini rising, might be someone who just like can just let loose to their communication, like zero filter, just boom, but very, very honest, and they don't hold back. And just like telling it how it is, brutal honesty. We need that in this world, right? And I think also with Eris, it's just like that potential for just like that volcanic eruption, um, very intense minded people who will just go if it's something they care about. But like the thing there, the Eris and the aspect is just just that impulsivity in speech with the Gemini rising. So that's just something like that mindfulness obviously like will help um if that's an issue. Mhm. Also Mercury and Aries, they're really good yeah, and just Aries in general are very good initiators and Aries are like leaders, right? But like about your sun sign. Um oh, and they can be pretty fucking confrontational. Like, oh man, like yeah. Arguments and stuff can come up. And they like them, I've noticed. They like win debates. So yeah, and sometimes they can be a little bit self-centered in terms of their minds. Um, and the really important thing with all the Aries energy, and this is like why the Pisces moon helps us so much, is that sometimes the give and the take. Sometimes the Aries takes too much, and sometimes it can be a little bit childish, a little bit immature. That's just like the low energy Aries, but really it's like the leader. And when it combines with the rest of your chart, it's like someone who's really, really standing up for what they believe in. I love your 10th house moon. Also, moon with the North Node. It makes me think that you have like a very strong karmic relationship with your mother, and that compassion and this wholeness, this oneness is something that you've been working on for recent lifetimes. Um, you've been trying to like really, really like move from Virgo to Pisces, which is the last axis, right? It's like enlightenment. And also 10th house moons are very well seen by the public. And they tend to like, yeah, they tend to like, yeah, have that, like, yeah, like it's like good public relations if they're doing something that involves that. Um, yeah, the thing of the balance of of fourth and 10th is like it's like not spending too much time working, like I said before, with the moon there, it's like the most connection can be to the work. So it's important also to, you know, to not just be like out external, because the Pisces moon definitely needs its time alone, as I said. So also moon in the 10th, I have to say this, because the moon fluctuates, it can make and it can make someone and Mercury or midheaven in Aquarius, like it can make someone like go through various like job slash career slash life direction changes. And I believe that they probably in your life they probably flow with your evolving idea of what truth is. Also, I love that you're part of fortunes to conjunct the sun. I'm trying to think how many times I've seen that. Um, but yeah, part of fortune is obviously, well, not obviously, I think of it as like the flow state, like where, like just an area where we have like a lot of talent, where we have a lot of joy. Um, so if it's with your sun, it's like the highest energy of Aries, right? The leader, the pioneer in 11th house, right? Um, these larger than life goals that take us a lifetime to create, our friends, the groups we're a part of, the tribes we're a part of, like that's a leader of people, right? So yeah, I think that it makes one very, very like individualistic, I mean. Um, and it adds even more of that like optimism and that energy and that like kind of like Aries, like free spiritedness, like assertiveness, all that stuff. And also like that courage that comes with Aries. So some say like when sun's with part of fortune, it like gives like a double dose of that sun sign. It makes you extra Aries. Um, so it's like really important to like really be high vibe Aries. You know what I mean? Um, yeah. I think in Aries it would just give like a lot of vitality to it, a lot of like just like endurance and maybe even like sports. Um, yeah, but very straightforward, I imagine. So another thing about like the service thing with Pluto, I'm big on Pluto, sixth house Pluto. I always think of it as like your vertex there too, right? So it's like um it's really like it's like going away from the me towards the we, right? And it's really asking you to like be a service in this lifetime, and also like obviously success Pluto like can become like obsessed with like obsessive when it comes to their job, like I said before, right? But also, the daily routine plays like a very important role in the life. Um, there can be like dramatic changes to health, but usually I feel like that's when you're not aligned, right? Because there's that relationship between mind and like psychosomatic, like mind and body. That's so important. So all in all, let's see. Interesting. Talking from this, Leo. Funny. Um, just funny because of like the stuff I said about Aries. But we'll talk about that a little later. So. Okay. Okay. So your Mercury's in Aries, right? It's with Aries, and it's essentially unaffected. Yeah, it's with the sun, but barely. Like I don't even know if I count that. Um, so it wouldn't be like so off to think that perhaps when you're growing up, you were very, very sensitive, right? Pisces moon, but that sometimes just things come out of the mouth, and that's what Venus like. They don't necessarily have the checks and balances. So with Chiron, right, in Gemini, um, I see that with a lot of my clients, and oftentimes it comes from like early on not trusting for whatever reason, like that they were smart or like something was wrong with their thought process, or there could be like a fear of communicating, um, something early on, right? And I feel like with your chart, with all this like genius stuff I'm seeing, like the Aquarian part, and then also this Aries part, that there maybe was like some jealousy, um, and maybe you were like a little bit different, but very powerful, and maybe people were threatened by that, and maybe you had like pain around thinking like something with what you think and what that and what you think and what not, um, how you think, maybe you feeling like something was off about that. And then first house Chiron, I think of it as like someone who like whenever they really like try to be themselves, they like their true selves, there can be like some feeling of like rejection. Um, it can be like, some kind of physical wounding, first house, the body, like maybe there's like something that happened. Or, it could just be around identifying too much of the self-esteem with, um, you know, the brain, the communication, the Mercury. Um, but yeah, like, mhm, yeah. And then, yeah, so then like the one aspect also is like Mars square Jupiter, and people who have that, they really need to like make sure that they don't just take the easy route, and like they have to like really be with like the self-discipline, um, because like it can make someone quite impulsive also, right? And that impulsivity can get in the way of them reaching their goals. So the Jupiter in the 12th house, you asked about that specifically. Um, it really is about this deep dive, right? It really is about this deep dive and this ability to go, like I said, into the areas of life. Like it gives a lot of metaphysical understanding, um, naturally. So much protection, as I said, and it adds even more to your like natural like compassion. And yeah, it makes great psychologists, any kind of healer, um, anyone that it gives them the gift to like see through the layers, see through people, right? And they're really good at understanding like the human psyche. Um, So yeah, anything metaphysical, they can get really deep with that too. What else? What else? What I missed out? Yeah, so protects people from enemies. Um, yeah, it's like it just creates a dreamer, someone like I said who can find that optimism, and it makes them also really, oh yeah, like really really love their alone time usually, and just like it even adds more to that kind of like imagination. So I can't imagine you being someone who like hates being alone. Like yeah, you're probably social, um, but yeah. What else? Yeah, it's just like so good for enemies because like it like literally like protects, and it like just gives like a really good vibe and like makes like the enemies like almost um like understand the wrongness of like doing anything bad. I have Jupiter 12 house too. Um so yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Like the whole idea of like it protects you against hidden enemies, and then it can like actually like lead them to like change their mind and their opinion about you. I find that so fascinating. But also, the 12th house is related to secrets as well. So sometimes people who have this have difficulty keeping secrets. I know for me, like that's like something I pride myself on. Like I have so many secrets and I keep them even if someone like wrongs me. Um, yeah, yeah, it's super, super intuitive. Um, so then you have Juno conjunct Jupiter. How lucky are you when it comes to love? Ascendant with Venus, Juno, which is like I see it as your ideal mate, conjunct Jupiter. It just in Taurus in the 12th house. It's just like, someone who like is obviously going to get very lucky karmically with, relationships. But also, like on the 12th house Juno, it speaks to this very very faded relationship, or relationships in your life, right? um and that idea of like the Pisces merging together, and then Juno and Taurus, like the ideal mate, it kind of adds like I always think of like the pillars, the foundations, like someone who's very foundational and who's very very solid and reliable and stable. um so then you add Jupiter to that, and it just expands that even more, and just it just makes it so it's it's someone who can teach you a lot, and you can learn a lot from them, and um, have a very fun, adventurous relationship. So it's really nice. I can't think of when I've seen Juno with Jupiter. That's really cool. Um, yeah. So part of fortune. Also, we talked about that. But yeah, 11th house, just like just like when you're serving humanity. It's the best. It's the best energy, and that's the best gains. The best gains. And when you're when you're doing your own thing, fully independent, using your own willpower to achieve your goals, like that's you know one of the strengths of that. Okay, so series. Let's see. Yeah, the eighth house. Yeah. So obviously you have these three there. um, So very interesting. So Neptune, which I start with Uranus, Neptune, Saturn. Start with the boring one. Um, Yeah, we'll start with Saturn. So, well, the cool thing about Saturn in the 8th house is that it can really it can like prolong life. It can make people live like very long. Um, it's actually like not that bad of a place to have Saturn. And one of the coolest things is that okay, yeah, it can make people like very serious about like things like sexuality and about like opening up and like really like about intimacy. It can make like intimacy hard, especially for the first 30 years. But because Saturn after that, when it's not blocked, it can open up and give someone like a very, let's say, a very serious attitude towards like the esoteric and understanding like studies of life after death and anything metaphysical, right? But I think like it kind of goes like the Taurus, where like um it could be like yeah, like um more of like a cautious approach to unification. Um, but is it? I don't think it's really aspect, is it? Well, trans Jupiter. That's a really good one. That's like the really good blend of like self-control and enthusiasm. So yeah, I mean like if it's not badly aspected, it can which it isn't, it can actually like be good for sex. Um and yeah. Um one thing with Saturday Eighth House is just watch out for loans, other people's money, any kind of contracts, just really, you know, chill on, like make sure like you're very sure. Um and don't take on try not to take on debt. It's very important. Um what else? Yeah, a lot of people that have it, they like lose someone in their first Saturn return. Um but yeah, the goal is like in relationships, like just in general in life to surrender, that's what it's asking. I see a lot of like the ability to be serious about eighth house matters. Like what an asset. Um, you know. But I think like what it can do is like it can for the first 30 years it can kind of hold back that death rebirth transformation, like real growth. But I see a lot of astrologers and very like spiritual mystical people on my fucking voice who have that. Um so yeah, Neptune the eighth, obviously amazing. It's just like the person who just like as a Pisces moon already, right? So it rules your moon in the eighth. Um, someone who's able to just like they are like they take in all of like the spiritual currents, and it's good and it can be good or bad, right? Very, very good for like, being a healer, right? Having that unconditional love. But once again, it depends on the kind of energies you're taking in. Um, there can also be like this idea of like, self-deception, and even being deceived. And also with like, loans and debts and other people's money, like it's very important to, yeah, like just be very careful who you deal with, in that type of way, because Neptune can bring bad people, deceptive people. So what else with that one? Yeah, it's just really, really good like talent for the occult. It really just opens like the gates to the unconscious, and to like understanding like the human psyche and um yeah, it makes the imagination even more vivid than it already is. And yeah, what else? Think, brain, think. Mm. sometimes they get blamed for things that they didn't do. And also, um, really, really being careful of like different like spiritual groups that you join, and even like spiritual creators or just anyone that like you learn from. And if you have an inheritance, being really careful, just how that's managed and whatnot, you know? So yeah. Yeah, there's not really like any bad aspects to it. So it's all chilling in there, just increasing. Yeah, but there's also like that need once again for spiritual protection, because the gates are so open, which isn't how it is for most people, right? So it's important to be like have boundaries about who you let in, you know, who you tell, who you talk to, you know, who you talk to. If we get to do a live session, we will have to talk about something. But yeah, yep. It's really important to like understand, like learning to like use that like Pisces moon intuition to like distinguish like friend from like predator. Sometimes people struggle, but you have 3 planets in there. So I love Uranus in the eighth. It's like download central, when the person can kind of like calm the mind. It's just like these antennas, just boom, 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 and yeah, like the whole death thing is kind of weird. It's like Saturn, it makes it extended. Neptune, it's like what? Like with water. Uranus, it's like a quick death. It's like, okay, well, if they're all three in there, like what the fuck? Who cares? Um, but like, yeah, like if it's Uranus there alone, it's like more of a death that's just kind of like quick, painless. Um, so yeah, and then like with the inheritance part, like Uranus obviously could give like a quick windfall out of nowhere, like benefiting from other people's money. Um, but I don't think that's badly aspected. It's just conjunct. No, it has a nice trine with the sun, so it's nicely aspected. Um, yeah, so it's just like Uranus loves being the eighth because the eighth is so open, and it gives that Uranus like that freedom to really like have its own unconventional kind of way, with spirituality and with anything magical. Whoa, that's so crazy. We were talking about Uranus, and I just saw lightning. Like, what the fuck? That's why I think it's like Uranus is lightning or thunder or whatever. Um, yeah, so just like super strong intuition comes from Uranus in the eighth, which literally it's like a lightning strike, and I just saw one. So like if you can just sit, like you can just like get these downloads, like have a paper and like write them down. It's really, really interesting. To be able to like download cosmic information, like that's such a gift. You better use it. Um, Also like some people just like are very into astral projection, and yeah, they tend to, yeah, like yeah, I don't know what else to say. Anything. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. I guess with sexuality, it can create like a very interesting kind of type of like what's it called, tantra, um, like where you because like Uranus is about freedom, so it's like the idea of like seeking freedom through sexuality. So there could be like some taboos they're engaged in, but then Saturn is kind of the opposite. Well, but like I said, it's not badly aspected, so not really. Okay, so you had Pallas on the midheaven, very interesting. Pallas in Aquarius is, another one of them genius ones, like another one of them like outside the box thinker. One second, right? I love when it rains here. Yeah, so that's definitely like one of the like Pallas in Aquarius, like they're yeah, just super original, insightful thinker, outside the box thinker. We've talked about this stuff before. It's showing up again. It's on your midheaven, so you're able to like really see the big picture and like apply it to your career and be very strategic in your career. And it could be related to like teaching, tons of stuff, right? Like really about like finding truth and like kind of connecting that to your career. Sirius is in Pisces, so I always think of so your moon and your Sirius are together. So it's like, um, you know, Sirius and Pisces, it's just like that oneness of the world. You feel nurtured and most cared for when you feel that, and when you're also like helping people, taking people out of difficult situations, like healing people, I guess is a better way of saying that, relieving people's pain. And 10th house series, I would say there's like, um, you know, like a profession where you're like looking after other people. So a lot of people with that would have like a more caring profession. Um, Damn, 147, holy shit. So Vesta is in Cancer, in the second. So, you know, um, that's good for money. And best in Cancer is someone who's very committed to their family. They're very loyal and committed to like their family of origin, and then like the family that they might build in their life. Um, so yeah, I think Vesta second. Yeah, it's just like really good at like giving themselves like physical monetary comfort. Um, and sometimes just like very very tenacious when they go and get what they want for sure. All right, Black Moon Lilith. Also, like the vertex being in the sixth, I just think of that as like another clue of like you being you meant just like meaning related to like you being of service, and yeah, and then vertex in Scorpio, it's like through these really intense experiences, life-changing experiences that that represent like your doorway to higher awareness is how I see it, right? And yeah. So okay, Black Lilith and Leo. So interesting, right? Um, so I look at that and I think, what is the lowest energy of Leo, right? So we talked about all this fire, and I always think it's like, like being like overly narcissistic, which I'm not calling you at all. I think Black Lilith is just like a potential, you at your worst, right? Um, so like mine's in Scorpio, so fuck. But the way I would look at that is, well, also you have Chiron sextile your sun. I didn't even see that, but yeah, I think that Black Lilith and Leo in third. I would just say like like it goes back to like the give and take, you know, um, and sometimes like the Black Lilith and Leo, like they feel like they're giving, but really it's not like that. Um, and it can be a little bit overly dramatic and just I mean it's just you know um what you'd expect from Black Lilith and Leo, right? um I've always looked at it as um you know just too much about me, right? Um, maybe even a little bit childish. Holy shit, this lighting's going crazy. There's gonna be a big storm. So yeah, I think Bible Lilith, there's like a fear of change. Um, I think that there is only for a few hours. Maybe it's probably gonna last like 6 minutes. So yeah, sometimes people with Bible Lilith, like the ego's too big, and it's about like the things that can happen from that, like the position they achieve is so important. Um, that they link their self-esteem to external stuff sometimes. So, the fear of change is understanding that like change is growth, and like also it can be like a little bit bossy. So like a lot getting good at working with other people, um, pumping other people up. But I think the fact that you have like this Aquarius energy and this very strong air is very good for that. But going with the third house is so interesting because I have it. Um, and I swear, actually, no, yours is in the fourth house in classes. So yeah, it could just be like, well, I'll give you both. Third house Black and Lilith, it's like issues with neighbors and siblings, and I have like neighbors who are there who just for no reason just don't dislike me and my girlfriend. It's so fucking weird. Like they just find reasons and they're smiling to our face, and then like our other neighbor says they're like talking shit about us. I'm just like, what the fuck? Um, but yeah, like I would say like in classes in the fourth, it would definitely be related to to family and some darkness in that respect. Okay, let's pop this baby open. Oh shit. How did I not realize? Oh my god. Yeah, I don't know how I didn't realize. So how far you have Aldebaran, Ryan, your Venus? I wasn't thinking it's 0.25 away. Wow, so that's pretty close. Of one perhaps the best star. We're definitely like top two. Three best stars have to be Aldebaran, Regulus, and Spica. But Pumalhat also, and Antares is also a real star. um, yeah, that's like as good as it gets. We'll talk about that in a second. I'm just trying to find all the ones. Aphrodite and your sun, that gives you beauty, obviously. You saw what I was looking at. It's like so many like like numbers crunched together, and I have somehow the ability to tell which ones are which. So yeah, maybe it's possible that you might work. Yeah, like your work might be really related to humanitarianism, saving the world. Oh, you have Urania on your descendants, so you could be an astrologer. That's the astro of astrology, and it's on an angle for you. Or you might marry an astrologer. And I'm sorry if you're already married and I said that. My bad. Okay. What's that noise? Interesting. Okay, I need to. Well, okay, I see. So we need to look at. Sorry. Okay, so let's put this in. It's one of my longest readings in forever. Okay, so the fact you have Aldebaran rising is obviously the most important thing in all this. And um, I swear I'm not picking my nose. Scratchy scratch. Okay. All right. So um, let's pop these two open and then so yeah, so Aldebaran, it's one of the four royal stars of Persia. It's amazing. Having your ascendant on it, and yeah. So basically, I'm gonna read to you what it says because it's amazing. Oh no, you have your ascendant. I'm so sorry. I'm so stupid. I'm not stupid, but it says when it's incorrect. You have Venus on it. Honor through literature, music, or art. Creative abilities favorable for health and marriage. So how about that? And that's like one of the luckiest, most beautiful stars. And does it have a dark? This one probably doesn't talk about the Venus. Oh, it does. So there is some scandal here with Venus bringing out the insatiable desires of the star yet again. There's potential for great artistic achievement and talent with the ability to create beautiful, harmonious, in sumptuous environments. If the person has no artistic gift, however, then uh, covert they may covert Venusian beauty in others. They then um, they will then be overly materialistic and find it hard to let go of people and possessions. Wait, but hold up. 9:37. So yeah, doesn't work. All right. Okay, so Hamal, what does it do? Is it anything with Jupiter? Mm. And then you have asteroid Hades. I do not know shit about. I mean, it's Hades, so it's linked to the underworld, obviously. It's right on your ascendant. So perhaps I have no experience with asteroid Hades in your ascendant, so I can only speculate that it brings some of the themes of Pluto of death, rebirth, transformation um, to your everyday life, and probably, perhaps, oh my God, that was the biggest I've ever seen. Perhaps like, um, you know, perhaps there's themes. My cats just went crazy. What the fuck, guys? What the fuck? You guys just broke the plate. Why'd you guys just run so frantically? For a loud thunder I couldn't hear? I had headphones on? Oh my god, I'm sorry. Yeah, so I think that it just kind of like adds the theme of the underworld and just more plutonium uh death rebirth transformation. But I wanna look at one thing. And then there's one other thing I have to look at. It's gonna be the longest reading in forever. Am I over 2 hours? I am for sure, huh? Yeah, I am. Oof. Okay. Mika, what happened? Yeah, so it just adds like this real like underworld kind of theme and the need to kind of like transform yourself on some level, right? Um, like emotional. Oh my God, that thunder! Holy fuck, that was so cool. So yeah, it's reminds us that we must care about our emotional self. That emotion can cause big problems and disease. You hear that? If we don't give them the utmost importance, but it's also in their resolution where a new awareness and growth can take place. This is where some of the most beautiful and positive manifestation of the Hades energy can be seen. I want to get electrocuted. So some of the keywords are decay, unpleasantries, sinister, um, deeply buried things, criminal, blah, blah, blah. And it's positive antiques, antiquities, the occult, and the esoteric. Um, it's very common to see a strong Hades in chart of doctors, therapists, and as well as those in the esoteric profession, as they're all working with people who need their help in some way. Ooh, that's cool. I'm happy I looked that up. Now I want to see one thing and then we'll be good. Okay, so you do have a T square. um, you have two actually. Yeah. Pluto, Jupiter, Mars. Don't worry, Esme. Um, Uranus, Chiron. It'd have to be. No, no, you have one. So the T square, yeah. So the resolution, so it's with that. So it's the square between. Wait, why did it not tell me about this then? Because you have Mars square Pluto. Why did it not tell me in the grid? What the fuck? I guess it's like probably just outside of the range from a program. But I mean, why is it showing it here? Yeah, but, okay. So Mars square Pluto. One aspect that I didn't talk about is a very, very volcanic one. Mars square Pluto people like can get angry very fast. They really, really need to have they can have like this strong desire for dominance. They really, really need to achieve like they're very, very ambitious. Sometimes their power can get the best of them. It's like one of the most volcanic aspects in astrology, super ambitious. But there can be like lots of anger, right? So it's really, really important for them to have like physical outlets like kickboxing or some shit like that. And or like to just channel, their work ethic into something really worthwhile because there can be like real aggressiveness from this. So and then the fact that Chiron or that yeah, so and yeah, we talked about the Jupiter one. So it shoots out in Leo in the third. So basically that's just saying how by you the curing of this T-square between Jupiter, Pluto, and Mars, which can bring like a lot of darkness and um, you know, like just like also like doing things very, very impulsively, and anger. It's through finding your throat chakra in a very authentic way and having like a maybe like some kind of creative outlet where it's relating to like third house, which is writing, communication, and like your truth. And then Leo, which is your authentic self-expression, where you can be like, in touch with your inner child through that. So yeah. All right, what a long reading. I hope you enjoyed 2 hours 6. That's my record for a while. I mean, not my record. I've done like crazy times, but it's a big one these days. So thank you so much. And yeah, let me know about the follow up in current if you want to do that. And I hope you enjoy it. So